Okay, welcome back to ThinkTech Talks. Here we are on Hawaii, the state of clean energy. That's because it must be Wednesday. Or maybe it's Wednesday, that's why it must be Hawaii, the state of clean energy. And we have here at the table, starting from way far left, is Mike Hamnett of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And then to his right, we have Lisa Harmon, who's with Hawaii Energy. She's going to report about the negawatt moment. And then to her right is Peter Rosegg from Hawaiian Electric Company. Welcome all you guys to the show.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
In our second part of the show, we'll have two more energy people. One is Merissa Sakuda, and the other is John Hayes of AFC Financial. And we'll have them on shortly, and they're going to talk about other things, namely the on-bill financing program. Okay. But for the moment, let's begin as we always do, because we can't help ourselves, with Hawaii Energy. And you, Lisa, what do you got for us today? What new idea, what new provocative encouragement, incentive thing have you got for us today?
Okay, Jay. Well, first of all, I'd like to remind you that Hawaii Energy is the ratepayer-funded conservation and efficiency program, and we serve the islands of Hawaii, Lanai, Maui, Molokai, and Oahu. And today we're going to talk about submetering for master meter properties.
Okay, and you're going to have to define terms.
Okay, no problem. Some master meter condos built in the late 60s, early 70s were built with one electric meter serving the entire property. Therefore, electric utility consumption is distributed according to percentage of common ownership rather than how much each person is consuming.
It seemed like a reasonable idea at the time.
It did, but actually it's not a good idea, Jay.
Tragedy of the commons.
Tragedy of the commons. So we found that by installing third-party submeters and making people responsible for what they use tends to encourage and foster conservation. So at Hawaii Energy, we're willing to incentivize that and help properties that would like to go down that path.
Does that mean, do I hear you saying that you will put the submeters in?
No, we offer incentive funding. $150 per residential meter that's installed to go toward the cost of this project. And the savings that the property can expect is anywhere from 10 to upwards of 25%.
Okay, so what will you do for me exactly? Who do I have to be to come and see you about this?
If you are a master meter property in AOAO condominium and you distribute electric costs through your master meter without submeters, you can participate in the program. We have a lot of information online at hawaiienergy.com. Under submetering, we have technical requirements and recommended best practices so that the board can start to familiarize themselves with the process. They can also call me at Hawaii Energy or email me. And the first step.
You want to give a phone number or an
Yes,
email?
I can give my phone number. It's 839-8865.
I love that when public officials, I consider you a public official, when public officials give their personal information out. I think that's really good.
You asked me to, Jay.
And you did, is the point.
I did.
You could have said no, you didn't do that.
Well, I want AOAs to get in touch with me because I want to help them save energy and control their utility costs.
You better break it to Jay that that's not your home number.
It's not my personal cell phone number, Jay.
Jay thinks he got some.
Lisa, how many condominiums are taking advantage of this program?
Well, Mike, over the last 3 years, we've had 23 properties take part in the program, and it's just grown every year when they begin to see the benefits that they can realize by taking the electric utility expense off of their common expenses and maintenance fee and putting it in the hands of the residents, and those are the people that are actually using it.
So, I live in one of those buildings, and so let me put in a really strong plug for this. Before, we were master metered, and there was absolutely no incentive to try to save energy because, first of all, you didn't know what you were using, and secondly, why should I save energy when my neighbor is wasting energy, running air conditioners, keeping everything on 24/7? Because I'm going to pay the same amount in any case, or the same share in any case.
That's right.
So there was no incentive to save, and there was no way of knowing whether we, my particular unit, what we were paying. Not even just whether we were average or whatever, but whether we were using electricity wisely or not. So now we get a monthly notice that says your share of the non-common area's electricity is this much. We now know what we are actually spending, and we have an incentive to lower that because we know that whatever we do in our apartment will actually make a difference. And the guy next door, if he wants to run his AC 24/7, if he wants to do all those things, fine, but he's going to pay for it, not me. So it really incentivizes you. It gives you the information you need to begin to act. When we get a monthly notice that says we got a little bit, we spent more than the month before, we sit down and figure out why. And we can see, we know that if we install an Energy Star appliance, we'll get the benefit of that, not, it won't just kind of disappear into the mass. So you're right, at a time when electricity was very cheap, it didn't seem worth it to put in a separate meter in every single apartment. It's no longer cheap. I understand. Oh.
Right. And you can't manage what you can't measure. So without the resident knowing how much they're using, there is no incentive.
So how do you
to save.
find out what the resident is using?
They install, the sub-metering company will install a separate meter inside their unit or in a central location where they can have access to the usage.
Now, this information on the sub-meter does not go to the utility. It merely goes to the building.
Correct.
And then the building has software, I guess, that can generate these notices like the one that Peter was talking about.
Yeah, well, there's different ways to do that. Either the building can do it or the property management company, as I think in the case of where Peter lives, the property management company handles it, and then they send it out with the other bills.
Lisa, how soon?
Do you start to see savings?
How soon do you start to see savings? That is a great question, because the interesting thing is when the board starts discussing this project and having the sub-metering implemented, the usage begins to decline just by the fact of everyone talking about it and starting to pay attention to what am I using, right? Am I wasting? Is my air conditioning on when my door's open? Should I be doing that? Because now I'm going to have to start paying for that. So you see pretty much immediate results, and it begins to decline over the next year or two.
You do have to go through the process of the board or the AOAO or the condominium owners have to do a vote. It does have to go through that process. So you have to convince everybody.
All owners have a vote.
Yeah.
But
at
now
least
that
we did it already in-
now that there's Act 18 that was signed by the governor in April of 2012, as long as the board votes on the sub-metering project, then it can
So
be
it
approved.
doesn't have
Not
to be a
all
vote of the
residents.
owners.
No, it does not.
Oh,
have to
that's
be a vote
really
of
a
the
step
owners.
forward, because, try to get a vote of the owners, it's always, it's a
Right.
special condominium type hassle, yeah.
Right, yes. You
So
need
how
to-
much does it cost to do a building?
Well, the projects can range anywhere from between $350 to $550. It's a lot of it depends on
Per
the
unit.
installation per unit.
Yeah.
Depends on the installation of that particular property.
Okay, well, this is definitely a step forward, Lisa.
It is, and I hope that anybody that's listening that's a board member of a master metered condominium property will contact me, and we can give them lots of information about this great energy saving measure. Because then the residents also have a chance to participate in our residential programs, as Peter mentioned. Maybe they need to upgrade their refrigerarer to an Energy Star appliance.
All
and
of a
that
sudden it
will
becomes
lower-
relevant, because now
Yes.
now the
Now they
spotlight
save.
is on them, yeah.
Yes.
But I just wonder, you may be talking about an aardvark in some ways, because after a certain period of time, they stop doing this 1 meter thing, right? I mean, you don't find buildings going up like that today.
No,
A brand new building would never have 1 meter for all those units.
Today, typically, they do have 1 meter, but they put the sub-metering in at the time of construction.
So it doesn't
Most
cost
often.
much at all.
Yeah, it's done at the time of construction.
The building as a whole still wants to take advantage of being treated by us, by the utility, as a commercial property. So if there's one master meter that is the meter we pay attention to, they get a commercial rate rather than a residential rate. If everybody had a meter that belonged to us,
Be residential.
it'd be residential, and they'd be paying more per kilowatt hour than they do this way. So the incentive is to keep the master meter at the edge of the property, so to speak, and take from Hawaiian Electric through the master meter, and then use the sub-meters to decide, to figure out how much each various apartment owes. And that way you get the best of both worlds. You get knowledge of what you're doing, and you also have the best possible rate for your condo.
Everybody's happy, everybody.
Everybody wins.
Utilities happy, the residents, at least the ones who are saving energy, are happy. There's the
Right.
guys who are probably not happy because now they can't do what they were doing before with bad habits.
That's right.
And of course, Hawaii Energy is happy. Look, smile.
That's right.
Okay, so is that all you want to say, or is there more that you have tucked up your sleeve?
Well, I just want to remind everybody that they can check our website at hawaiienergy.com for more information on all of our incentives that we offer, residential and commercial, and to please contact us with any questions, and specifically me for sub-metering and anything with the AOAO condominium world.
Good for you. You know, the best nanowatt is the nanowatt you never use. Or is that a double negative? Okay, Peter, switching the hot light to you. Peter Rosegg, Hawaiian Electric. So you had some press releases, I guess in order of sequence then. The one that appeals to me, okay, you pick the order of sequence.
Well, the slightly older one, I've got two of these things here. The Solar Electric Power Association is a national association that includes utilities and solar companies. Every year they rank the utilities around the country.
Why don't we zoom into those and so we can see what they say? They look very impressive.
And they rank utilities across the nation. And Hawaii usually is in the top 10, and we were again in the top 10 this time for 2013. In the total watts added in 2013, the total solar watts added, Hawaiian Electric was 5th. Hawaii Electric Light Company, was 7th, and Maui Electric Company was 8th, and our friends on Kauai, the Kauai Island Utility Co-op, was number 9. So 4 out of the top 10 utilities are the 4 utilities here in Hawaii in terms of the total amount of watts per customer that was added. If you just look at the watts without doing the per capita, just the total amount of watts, Hawaiian Electric was number 8 in the country. And of course, we're up against Pacific Gas and Electric, San Diego Gas and Electric, much bigger utilities.
It's an absolute.
Yeah, so it's an absolute number. Arizona Public Service, Southern California Edison, as you would expect, are at the top of the list. But for a very small utility relative to the nationals to be in number 8, it's pretty impressive. Then if you look at the cumulative watts per customer, in other words, all that's been installed up to the end of 2013, not just in 2013, everything going back, essentially going back about 10 years, then in that case we were 4th. Hawaiian Electric was 4th. Kauai Island Utility Co-op was 6th. And Maui Electric Company was 8th. And Hawaii Electric Light didn't make the top 10, but they were very close behind. And finally, in the total, again, the total amount of watts in an absolute number added up to the end of 2013, not just in 2013, Hawaiian Electric was number 10. And again, considering our size compared to Pacific Gas and Electric, Southern California Edison, and so forth, that's pretty amazing. That on this island, we were the number 10 in the country in terms of the total amount of solar we have installed. And I have to say, we get the award, the utility goes to collect the award, but it wasn't us that did most of the work. We have, the end of March, we had 43,600 customers who had decided to put in rooftop solar. And we have about 300 some solar vendors in the state working very hard to sell those solar rooftop systems and getting them hooked up and so forth. And we try very hard to get those folks hooked up to the grid as soon as we can.
I want to take a short break, Peter,
Sure.
but when we come back, I'd like to ask you, what does this mean in the landscape? The fact that Hawaiian Electric won these awards and the fact that we have allowed so much solar on. What does it mean in the landscape of the Clean Energy Initiative? We're going to take a short break. This is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, with Mike Hamnett, Lisa Harmon, Peter Rosegg, and me, Jay Fidell. We'll be right back after this short break.
Hello, I'm Martin Despang, and I'm the host together with the one and only Ali Yamashita, and our show is called Urban Transcendence. And urban transcendence is about identifying where we have a unique situation of a vibrant city in one of the most beautiful natural environments. So how these two can coincide, sometimes conflict, how they could find reciprocity in the 21st century is what we're excited about. And we're planning on bringing in a diverse body of guests, both from the arts and the science and the established and the wise and the emerging generation. So hope you will join us. We'll always be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day,
host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're ThinkTech Talks Hawaii, the state of clean energy on Wednesday with Mike Hamnett, my co-host of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, Peter Rosegg, Hawaiian Electric, Lisa Harmon staying around from our discussion about the negawatt moment. Okay, Peter, the question is, well, these are notable awards and notable positions on the hierarchy of introduction of solar. But what do they mean in our Hawaii, clean energy initiative?
Sure. Let me try to tell you what they mean. If we are going to meet our goals, which is to get Hawaii off imported oil to the highest extent possible and to lower customer bills, we have to take advantage of every single renewable resource that we have. Solar is a great one, utility scale solar or rooftop solar, also wind, also waste to energy, geothermal where possible, hydro, eventually wave and ocean energy. It's not one or the other, it's all of the above. And this shows us that one of the things we can do in the near term, we are all doing. It takes a while to build a new waste to energy plant on a neighbor island or to do some of the other things that we need to do, but solar has the advantage of being able to move pretty quickly. And the solar industry has moved very quickly in going out and getting rooftops to convert to solar, and we're moving on a number of solar electric projects, utility scale, that everybody will benefit from here on Oahu. So we can't do everything at once, but we have to do everything. And solar is a very important first step. So are the new wind farms we have here, and we're going to get some more on Oahu. So is the waste to energy on the neighbor islands, biofuels, biomass, hydro where we can, geothermal on Hawaii Island. Everything is necessary, and this just shows that we are maximizing very quickly, going after the stuff that we can go after.
Do you think we'll continue to receive awards like this going forward? I mean, there are limits on how much solar we can take, but at the same time, your initiative to do commercial, large-scale solar is probably going to change the amount we introduce also. So how does it look going forward on, more of these very same solar type awards?
Right. Over the past, basically over the past 5 years, from 2008 to 2012, rooftop solar effectively doubled every year. That's not possible to continue forever, obviously, but it is still maintaining a good, strong showing in 2013 and into 2014. So there may be some limit out there. There certainly is some kind of limit out there, but we have a lot more that we can do. And in the meantime, we will be seeing more and more of these other things, as you say. The utility scale solar takes a little longer to get through the approval process, get the financing, get the companies to put it up. So that's the next stage. Another new wind farm is being proposed on Oahu. That'll take 5 to 7 years, I would imagine, once they get their approvals and so on. So everything, we got to keep growing, but we also have to be mindful of the fact that part of getting off oil will probably involve going to liquefied natural gas as a bridge till we get more and more of these renewables. The main goal, the two main goals, as I said, get Hawaii off of imported oil, get bills under control for our customers. And solar has the advantage of doing that, wind has the advantage of doing that. Waste to energy has two advantages. You get relatively cheap renewable energy, and you don't have any more junk to put in the landfill. So we have a long way to go, but we're at 18% statewide renewable energy against a 15% target, which was for 2015. So the 40% by 2030 is going to be, it's not a shoo-in, but we're confident we're going to make that and go beyond it. And that's what it's going to take, taking advantage of all the different things we can do. and going beyond it. And speaking of renewable energy, maybe I can mention the other thing that.
Wait, we have a question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's a segue.
Segue.
Peter, what's HECO going to have to do to put more on the grid?
Well, that's kind of the next subject here, which is the big challenge in all kinds of variable renewable energy, that is wind and solar, which are, depend on the weather and go up and down,
Right.
is some kind of energy storage. And when that gets solved, as that gets solved, it's going to really allow a lot more renewable energy. As it is now, first of all, the solar primarily is produced during the middle of the day, where we don't absolutely have the greatest need for it. We need that energy at night from 5 to 9 p.m. So this is probably the furthest off, but being able to move that energy from when it's made to when it's needed, that will require energy storage. But we're also now going out to request bids. We want to add between 60 and 200 megawatts of battery storage, energy storage essentially, for Oahu, storage that would last about 30 minutes. And the goal there is, if you have solar and the clouds come over or whatever happens, solar can dip very quickly. But our generators can't start as quickly or can't ramp up as quickly as the solar can fall. So these batteries would give us 30 minutes in which our system operators would say, oops, the solar's going down because of clouds or whatever. We want to start up this other generation, but in order to start it up correctly and efficiently, we need about 25, 30 minutes. And so this storage would allow us to do that. There's a third kind of storage, not to get too technical, and that's the sub-second storage. The electricity that comes out of a solar installation or a wind farm is not the smooth 60 hertz kind that we need.
Fluctuations.
So the sub-second gives you the ability to smooth that out so that when it enters the grid and goes to your home, where all your appliances insist on having 60 hertz good power quality, we're able to deliver that a lot more efficiently. So this is the kind of middle sort of battery, if you will, and it will mean that we can add more solar to the system as a whole, because we will not be in a situation where the solar can drop off more quickly than we can ramp up.
How much more is this? What kind of cushions is this going to give you? I mean, you said.
Well, it depends. I'm not the technician here, but 30 to 60 to 200 megawatts is quite a bit. We have about a 1150, 1200 megawatt peak
on the grid.
So in other words, we could lose a substantial amount of solar and still be able to keep the level that we need in many, many circumstances. It's not the only thing. We need to do more demand response. In other words, where if we do need to have companies primarily turn off power and not take the power from us, that will be useful also, because if you don't have to generate as much, you don't have to ramp up as fast.
Right.
And we have about 30,000 hot water heaters in the state that are in the demand response business right now. We give people $3 a month, so we can turn off their hot water heater, not solar, their hot water heater, so that we don't have to feed energy to those. And if we don't have enough generation, we still can meet the absolute needs. So we have to do more of that. But certainly the storage part, and it could be any technology in storage. There are all kinds of batteries, and as you know, they're getting better and better. You see them in vehicles now, so they have a lot more capacity. There's mechanical ways to store energy. There are a lot of different technologies.
But you're talking about batteries here, though.
No, we're talking
about.
This
RFP could be any kind of storage?
Any kind of energy storage. Could be flywheels, could be pump storage hydro, could be lithium-ion batteries, could be, there's something called thermal salt storage, where you heat up the salt during the day and you use that heat at night. We're open, we are open to whatever the marketplace can bring us. And we don't select. We're not trying to predict who the winner is, who the best deal is. They've got to come to us and say, here's our technology, here's what it can do for you, here's how much it'll cost. And like anything else, it'll ultimately go to the Public Utilities Commission for approval, but we want it to be very clear through this RFP process that we're going to get the best quality, lowest cost kind of storage we can. given bills today, it's no longer renewable energy at any cost.
Right.
It's no longer, let's bring it on, we'll take the renewable energy because we want it, we don't care what we pay for it. We can't do that. We have to be mindful of our customers' bills. And we've, ever since the Japan earthquake and tsunami, bills have been extraordinarily high because of the high price of the oil we use. We got to get off that, and this storage will help us do that.
Is the storage in one place or distributed around each island?
This is just for Oahu at the moment. This is just Hawaiian Electric. It would be distributed probably, again, depending on what the bids come in. I think it'll be better to accommodate it probably in substations or adjacent to substations at different
So
points
it's
on the
equipment
island.
that you would use, you would operate,
We would
rather than a third party operate it for you.
Probably we would own and operate, but we would not build. We were looking for somebody who will do everything up to the commissioning and testing, and then we would own it, because we need to be able to operate it in very close, along with the rest of our system. We need to be able to turn it up and turn it down and so forth. But we also, of course, have other independent power producers, and they would be part of that picture as well.
This will take the stress off the system in many ways. So
Some
for
of it,
example,
anyway.
if you have
Some,
quick
yeah.
response, battery is the quickest response of all. You have it right there, ready to go.
Right.
So you don't have to rev up a generator plant, even the one at Kapolei, right? You don't
Right.
need it
Well,
to do this.
The point is you will have the 30 minutes in which to do that. You cannot bring a plant like the one at Camel Industrial Park, for example. You can't bring that one up to capacity like you flip a switch at home. It's got to come up on what we call a ramp. And you start it out and you go up till you reach the point you need it. And that takes a certain amount of time. If we have 30 minutes of leeway, we are able to do that in a much more orderly way. Like your car, if you rev your car and you go thousands of RPMs every time you step on the gas, you're going to ruin that car. It'll run, but eventually it'll require repairs and all the rest. And these plants are the same thing. They're made to come up, at a certain speed. And maybe we can get that speed to be a little faster. But if every time we have to start those generators, we have to come up, literally in a straight up line, those generators are going to be, wear and tear. They're not going to last. They're going to be costs. And it's not efficient either. It's not a good way to use your fuel. So by having that 30 minutes, we bring these things up online in a way that's, that is much more compatible with the equipment and with the warranty. And on top of that, within the 30 minutes, maybe the problem goes away. So we're halfway up. We don't have to worry about it. We can
Sure.
bring that back
Sure,
down.
that's great.
If you're trying to use your reserves to go like that, it's very hard to moderate it. You've got a very short period of time. So this will give our system operators a lot more leeway, and that means we can have more of the kind of electricity that's generated by renewables that's not 100% predictable.
What's the timeline on this?
Well, we're moving very quickly. As Mike said, we've been working on this for a while. We want to get bids. Let me see. We want to get the agreements in line by the end of 2014, and we hope to have some of it or all of it in service by the beginning of 2017. Because, as we talked about before, we've got all this solar and more of it coming on the system. So, and that really has been the last 2.5, 3 years. So, in the last 2.5, 3 years, we've seen this very dramatic change in our whole system and our whole operation. And so, we realized we needed to do this. Kauai Island Utility Co-op, those guys, they got in ahead of us. They put out an RFP.
It's a friendly competition.
A while back. It's not
small
competition. They're that big and we're this big. But they put out an RFP, and I understand they got 90 responses.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people
From all over, right?
From all over, yeah, all over. This is whoever. We'll go in. We'll entertain any
anywhere in
bid,
the world.
Anywhere in the world, and that's very encouraging. It says that there are a lot of companies out there that at least think they can meet this need. That's a very small system. This is going to be quite a bit larger, but it does show that there are people out there, and it means that we're going to have a lot. We hope to have a reasonably large number to choose from, right? We don't want to be in a situation, if we can avoid it, where there's only one one guy that comes in and says, here it is, take it or leave it. We will, we'll entertain these bids, we'll look them over, and then we'll get into negotiations and say, we want to, yours looks good, but this other guy's this other guy offered a better price. How can we make this all work out? But the goal at the end of the day by 2017 is to have 60 to 200, preferably closer to 200 megawatts, not all in one place, but spread around, that will be able to allow us to keep the reliability that we all expect and pay for, and still get more renewable energy, the variable kind on the system.
It'll also give us experience with big batteries.
Absolutely.
And that could lead to something in the future that would be even more profound.
Right. We have about 11% of our customers here on Oahu with solar power, and that's far and away more than any other system in the nation. And people are coming here already to say, how are you dealing with that? What do you do? We get people coming from all over, calling even from Germany, I was told today, and they say, how in the world do you handle that? Do you deal with all that variable energy? And when the batteries come in, and we already have some battery demonstration projects on Maui, the NITO project, which you might be familiar with, we're already experimenting in this area, but this is no longer research and demonstration. This is for real. And people will want to come and see, how do you do that? It's not a simple thing to operate a grid, having all this storage around, having all this renewable energy around. It takes a combination of computers and very smart people operating the grid 24/7, and people will come to see how we're doing. They're looking at what we're doing now.
I think it's important to note too, Jay, that part of the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, 40% from renewables, 30% from efficiency, and I just want to remind people that that is the first step in helping the grid reduction, is doing these efficiencies, especially before they contemplate putting in a renewable energy system. Get your efficiencies done first, get incentive money from Hawaii Energy to help you with that project, and then go on to the renewable piece.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a short break, not because you said that. This is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, with Mike Hamnett and Lisa Harmon and Peter Rosegg and me, Jay Fidell. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, and we're going to switch out our cast of characters, if you don't mind. We're going to say farewell to, goodbye for a short time, Peter Rosegg and Lisa Harmon, and we're going to switch out with Merissa Sakuda and John Hayes. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rafi. Every week, I'm right here at ThinkTech Hawaii, 3 p.m. on Mondays. My show is Boards' Bio Briefings. What do we do here? Well, we watch sperm swim, we see if they catch anybody, we check out the latest biosimilars, the kind that, what was his name, the guy with the bicycle? I guess we forgot his name, but he was taking EPO. And other human growth factors. We'll be talking about human growth factors. You want to know where to get some? Maybe I'll tell. Anyway, you can catch me, as I said, every week right here, Monday, 3 p.m., ThinkTech Hawaii, Dr. Rafi. You can also find me on Twitter, BioInfoMedical. Or you can catch me on Facebook, Dr. Rafael Boritzer. I'll be happy to converse with you.
Thank you very much. Hello, I'm Martin Despang, and I'm the host together with the one and only Ali Yamashita, and our show is called Urban Transcendence. And Urban Transcendence is about identifying where we have a unique situation of a vibrant city in one of the most beautiful natural environments. So how these two can coincide, sometimes conflict, how they could find reciprocity in the 21st century is what we're excited about. And we're planning on bringing in a diverse body of guests, both from the arts and the science and the established and the wise and the emerging generation. So hope you will join us. We'll always be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m.
Welcome back. We're live. We're here. We're Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, with my co-host Mike Hamnett on the far side, and now we have a change in the cast of characters. John Hayes of AFC Financial, and close to me, where she belongs, is Merissa Sakuda, and she's from DBED. Okay, and what?
From the Public Utilities Commission.
Public Utilities Commission. How could I say that?
We work closely with DBED.
In time, you will learn to forgive me. Public Utilities Commission. And we haven't actually identified the name of the show yet, but now we're about to do that. This show is called Merissa Sakuda Tells All.
That's not much.
Okay, so let's start with you, Merissa. Let's begin with the on-bill financing program. Give us the status.
Well, I'm going to go with the history and then the status, because the status, there's not that much to share at this point in time with the status. But in 2011, the legislature asked the commission, the Public Utilities Commission, to look into this thing called on-bill financing and figure it out. And if we thought it was a good idea, maybe design something. So we figured it out. We thought it could be a viable program. And then in April of last year, we decided to get a bunch of people together to try and actually design a program that was actually going to help people meet, and with speaking of the HCEI goals that you were talking about before the break, meet those goals and improve access to energy efficiency and renewable energy. One of the ways we wanted to do that is to reach these market segments that were not able to be reached. There's two main ones. One would be the rental market. There's a split incentive issue there, where they wouldn't want to necessarily invest in permanently installed changes if it's not the property that they own. And then the other market segment that couldn't really be reached is those that don't have the capital up front. So the commission decided they were going to focus on meeting those needs and designing a program for them. And they created a working group of knowledgeable people in the industry. There's about, I think, 30 people in that working group, and they all weighed in. And then we also got program entities on board who knew what they were doing in the financing arena, like John with AFC First. And we decided to design this program. We released a decision in order in February of last year that laid out some basic program parameters for what is now being called the Bill Saver program. Some of those parameters are what really allow us to reach that hard-to-reach market. One of which is that it's a tariffed program. In other words, you're repaying on your utility bill. And that allows for a few things like transferability of the obligation. And there's also Hawaii ratepayers are really good at paying their utility bill. So tying that to the bill with the ability to disconnect if you don't pay really does help improve the repayment performance of those obligations. We also decided that it has to be bill neutral. In other words, there needs to be savings for the people signing up. And there's a lot of things that will be affecting electricity price and that nobody can determine, or we would all be rich. So in this case, it's bill neutral at the time of sign up. And we've decided also, because it's transferable, that these things need to be permanently installed measures, and that the program should be scalable, but we're initially starting with the residential and small commercial rate classes. So right now, we're in the process, the update is that we're in the process of securing funding so that we can go out to market with our program. There's two main options in the Bill Saver program. The differentiation between the options is that one option uses funding that has been gathered by the program that really is aimed to target these hard-to-reach markets in energy efficiency. So primarily, we're thinking solar water heating as the main measure for that. And we're using the public benefits fee that also goes to fund energy efficiency to help provide a credit enhancement for that portion of the fund. And then we also have another option, which is the on-bill repayment option. I think you may have had guests like Mark Glick and people from DBED talking about their desire to use the on-bill repayment option for some of their programs. The Green Energy Market Securitization Program being one of them that is aimed to help increase access to photovoltaic systems.
That's it?
I mean,
okay.
There's a lot of nuances in financing.
Mike, we want to start the cross-examination. We do have a few questions for you, Merissa.
Okay.
Just even with your residential market, how many people are out there that could take advantage of something like this?
Well, we haven't spent a lot of money really analyzing the market to a T, but we do know that there's about 40% rentals out there. So that alone indicates that there's a lot of rental units out there that are not necessarily are dealing with the split incentive problem
right.
for permanently installed measures. We also know that Hawaii Energy does a great job at getting their solar water heating incentives out currently,
Right.
and that's in the current market. So there's this would be an added option. They currently have two main tools to finance solar water heating. I mean to incentivize solar water
Right.
heating. One is the rebate, and the other one is a loan interest buy down. But because the financing product we've designed in this program is a little bit different from that. It's not a loan. It's not tying an individual person to this obligation to pay. So we're hoping that also increases the access to that.
There's one other aspect that would increase access as well. The financing that we're trying to put together on the on-bill finance side takes advantage of tax incentives.
Right.
There's a 30% federal tax credit and a 35% Hawaii state tax credit as well. Those numbers will help drive the cost of the systems down to the end user and give us the ability to penetrate that underserved market more effectively.
And
Well, I have some sort of landscape questions I'd like to pose to both of you guys. So a few years ago, it was the beginning of the Abercrombie administration that somebody came up with this idea about on-bill financing, and I think it came from Blue Planet Foundation. Actually, they were pushing it. They were pushing it in the legislature, and the legislature kicked it to the PUC, and the PUC kicked it to the legislature, and it went back in 2 or 3 iterations, and now it's about to give birth. I think that's good. But at the time it first came up, we didn't have these awards that Peter Rosegg had on the table. We weren't moving that fast. We'd only have a couple of doublings,
Right.
but not nearly the level of doublings that we've had since then. In the past 4 years, it really has been astronomical, and largely because there have been guys who have been developing financing instruments who come from the mainland and far away, or local guys who are really smart, and they put it together, and we have, I don't know how many PV installer companies there are in the state. It's quite a few.
30,
it's like
I think.
400.
No, 450.
450.
Yeah, it's a lot. Now, I'm not saying they're all that good, but a lot of them, ones at the top, are really good. And there are new entries coming in from the mainland all the time, and they have had lots of experience in setting up financing instruments to finance this. So if the original program, as contemplated at the beginning of the Abercrombie administration, was to democratize the availability of PV on your given roof, or put it in places it couldn't otherwise go, and give it to people who couldn't otherwise afford it, is there still a need for that with all of these financing instruments that have been so successful in doubling and doubling and doubling again the amount of PV? Or are you guys behind the curve?
Well, but there is the rental market, and those guys are not playing, and it's such a big percentage of our total housing stock here. And if we're going to push the needle very far at all, we're going to have to go there, because sooner or later the homeowner, owner-occupied ones are going to taper off. The other thing that's important about this is, and it's unfortunate, I think, that a lot of photovoltaic panels got stuck on roofs that don't have solar hot water.
Yeah.
And solar hot water is hands down the best investment you could make in terms of, I mean, it can cut your bill by 25%. And if you could do on-bill financing and the tax credits on that, it's a huge advantage.
Let me ask you this. If you have the chance of paying for your solar water or your PV on-bill financing instead of, the conventional old-fashioned way,
Right.
why in the world would you not do that? Is there any reason why I, as a consumer, homeowner, renter, would say, no, I don't want to do that? I mean, it seems to me like it's a no-brainer. So what is standing in the way of having hordes of people, running down the Punch Bowl Street and trying to make you guys do it for everyone right now, today, immediately, as soon as it comes out?
Well, I think there's a few options whenever you're talking about a big ticket item that you're purchasing. There's obviously, like if you're looking at buying a car, this is just another option in how you would do that. Some people, my parents, for example, paid for their PV system up front and took their own tax credits. It depends on your financial situation, and in our case, we're really, though we're open to all, we're trying to go after people who don't have that upfront capital, who maybe don't have the credit scores to be able to access the financing products that exist in the market today. For the option that uses funding created by the program for solar water heaters, we're actually not using any traditional credit criteria. We're just using utility bill payment history as the way to underwrite these obligations. And then again, fully transferable, so successive tenants, if this is a rental situation, would be able to pay this as well and not have really any underwriting criteria.
So what's all the complexification about having to write this up in such great detail and having a 30-person, what do you call it? Working group, including guys like John, writing up complicated documents and procedures. It's on my bill. I pay my bill. That's it. What else is there? Do we need to spend 4 years fixing that, how that works? What's the complexification there?
Hawaii is tackling the first program of its kind in the country. We're involved in 2 other state on-bill financing programs in Illinois and Connecticut, which are like OBR, as Merissa described it. And I just dropped my microphone.
Maybe the microphone did not agree with what you were saying.
Must have been. There we go. But like OBR, as Merissa described it, on-bill financing is designed, as she said, to be truly transferable. There is no consumer loan. So renter number 1 comes in. We essentially underwrite, but underwrite is the wrong term because it's not a consumer credit, but we qualify that account for installation of the on-bill finance measure. The person who's occupying that property is responsible for payment of the tariff while they're occupying the property. When they move and close out their HECO or any of their other utility accounts, that obligation does not follow them. It stays with the meter where the next tenant to the property comes in and is now responsible for payment of the tariff for the benefit of the system.
I can see this raises little questions. Like, for example, the next tenant says, no need.
No choice.
I don't want to do it. Why is it no choice? I mean,
it's invoiced via tariff on the utility bill. And
is the landlord obligated to do this?
The landlord
by
is
law?
not. The landlord has to consent to the installation, so there's no obligation on the part of the landlord to accept it.
So is this a covenant that runs with the land? I mean, how do we know that the successors to all the original makers of this agreement are going to be bound and respected?
It runs through the tariff on the utility bill.
What I hear you saying is that
no choice.
They're going to have to work this out.
Disclosures.
Because there will be strange circumstances. There will be strange people come into the marketplace and into the title on these properties who may have another view of this.
It's a very good point. We are working on the consumer and property owner disclosures right now. We need to be very clear in terms of what the obligation is, where it resides, what responsibilities there are. For example, since the property owner does not own the system, structurally, there will be a special purpose corporation set up that will own the equipment and be responsible for maintaining it. So there are no obligations in terms of the system placed on the property owner or the tenant.
You're a finance man. So what about UCC1s and financing statements and security interests? What about that?
The equipment.
Who is secured?
The equipment is not owned by the property owner nor by the tenant. It remains the property of the SPE. So what you need legally from a perfection of access standpoint is an easement.
Okay.
So you have the ability to go get the equipment.
You can go get it.
Right.
Then you can try to resell it. But if I'm a new buyer, I'm not going to take the old equipment. You can keep that. There may not be a lot of market for the aftermarket.
We're not expecting that there will be. We're not expecting that there would be for older systems. There very typically is no market for them.
So when's this going to come out? You don't have to answer that, but we'll ask it again if you don't.
We're working on getting it out as fast as possible. We recognize that there's a need. We really need, there's a lot of barriers when you're asking why we need a 30-person working group. I think one of the things you're bringing up with UCC filings is one of the reasons that we need so many people who have expertise in various aspects of this. It brings together financing and the world of regulations surrounding that with the world of utility regulation and this tariff concept.
You have a lawyer in the working group?
We have every working group member seems to have a lawyer if they are not a lawyer. So, and everyone needs lawyers. There's a lot of lawyers involved. That's one of the main things I've learned going through this process. But I think that is one of the reasons we needed so much expertise. So again, back to the lawyers and the complexity. We want to get this out as soon as possible. We're trying to identify investors, but it all depends on creating these legal documents surrounding this new structure. Yes, the commissioners are, the commission does have a review and approval.
Wait a minute, you
process.
are with the commission.
Yeah, I'm not a commissioner though, I'm not a decision
Okay,
maker by any means.
but you, okay, so what's happening now is the commission staff, am I right, with the working group has written this up, or you done?
Well, we're done as far as putting out our requests to investors of what we would like to see, and now we're trying to
You're
find
still
the
getting
investors.
feedback on that.
Yeah.
And then when you got the feedback, you'll finalize it, am I right about this?
Lots of
And then
lawyers.
you were going to take and walk across the hall to commissioners and say, would you please approve this? Right?
Well, the
Am I right?
commission, the commissioners have taken a very active role in the development of the program. So we meet with them regularly throughout the process,
hope
just getting
so.
approvals along the way to help develop. So we've gotten them thus far. They accepted what our request was for funding, and now we're going to have to come back and actually
What's the funding
select
for,
one.
anyway?
It's for the option in the program to finance energy efficiency, but we're focusing on solar water heating.
That's on
You
the
mean
on-bill
like Hawaii
finance
Energy
side.
does?
Don't
Don't they do that? They're across the hall also, aren't they?
They're down the street. Yeah, they're kind of close. What they do is just incentivize the increased use of energy efficiency measures in general. What we're doing is financing the entire purchase of solar water heaters and then allowing that to be repaid. It's a little bit different. There's a little
Okay.
more funding involved in this.
All right, so when it gets done and you go to them, they're going to have to review it, and then do they have to go out and get further public input, or are they just going to review it and approve it or disapprove it?
I think we've always been seeking input from the community. It might not be a broad public audience. That's what the working group was
So
for.
they'll be doing that too then? Will they be
Will
doing?
the commissioners themselves or the working group, or
will
we
they
have a
be
review
seeking
process.
public opinion?
We will likely be seeking comment. We aren't 100% sure, or the details haven't been nailed down yet on how we're going to be fully executing the
Okay,
program.
because Mike and I are waiting.
Yeah.
We are.
We are. We've
can
been
always
following
call
this
me
thing for
or
a
email
number
me.
of years now. We want you to finish.
So do we.
Going on 4 years, 5 years.
2011 was when Blue Planet, who was instrumental in passing this, was pushing this at the legislature.
Well, it's a great idea. It's a great program. It does democratize the whole process. It gives the common man an opportunity to have what the rich guy has. This is a great thing for Hawaii, and it's consistent with Hawaii values. But we got to make it happen. You have a moment, Mike, to sort of summarize what we've learned today and close the show.
Well, things are moving. Clearly, the on-bill financing thing, as slowly as it's been coming, is moving down the track, and that's going to be a great leap forward, especially in getting the rental market opened up for people to be able to take advantage of it, and to introduce a little more social equity into the whole solar business, which has not been there. And then the energy storage movement on HECO's part. That's been a longer time coming than I expected. As the solar providers, solar photovoltaic installers have been advertising for energy storage, and people have been starting to putting on their own houses, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And HECO and KIUC and HELCO and MECO, I mean, they're the ones that should be leading the pack.
That's the right direction, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Just economies of scale, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And there are also safety issues. With batteries are not exactly the safest things to have in your house, and they've got to be kept up, and that's something that the regulated utilities are equipped to do technically.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big step.
Good point.
So how would you characterize this show, Mike? I mean, I called it, Merissa Sakuda Tells All, but if you had a chance to rename it, how would you rename it?
We finally gotten some things moving that have been in the pipeline for a long time.
Touche.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Hamlet, my co-host, and John Hayes from IFC, I get that
AFC
right?
First.
AFC Financial.
AFC First.
FC First, directly involved with the on-bill financing program. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And part of the working group, undoubtedly.
That's correct, yes. Thank
And
you.
Merissa said that. And Merissa Sakuda, who seems to be at the center of it all.
With a lot of other staff and commissioners, yeah. I just happen to be here today.
But
Okay.
thank you guys for all your efforts on this thing. We all
Thank
appreciate
you for
it.
having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on. Hawaii, the state of clean energy, here on ThinkTech Talks. We'll be back tomorrow with urban Transcendence, our Thursday 1 o'clock show, and architect Martin Despang talking about, I think he's going to talk about Kaka'ako and what essentially is
interesting.
happening in Kaka'ako. And so are we. On May 21st, we're having a program at the YWCA called Finally Finding Our Future in Kaka'ako. You can sign up on thinktechhawaii.com. Aloha. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.